These are very simple at times, even kids know it, but there are many times there are issues that even adults don't know. And I'm not talking about super advanced issues. I'm talking about issues which occur in day-to-day life. You know, we do worship with a lot of effort. We pray salah, we do so many things related to worship, but on the day of judgment, just imagine we go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we present all our worship to Him, and it's very sad if somebody is told that your worship is not accepted because you didn't perform the acts of purity that was required. Wudu was one of them. I mean, if somebody is wearing clothes and they had some impurity on them, you know, your prayer is not valid if there is impurity on our clothes. So that's something some people do not have knowledge about, and that's the reason why we need to know. And some people know that, okay, this is something that fell on me, and I have to remove it, I have to clean it. And they clean it, and they think that it's pure. Probably the way they clean is not pure, and still that's a problem. Their salah is not accepted. That's the reason why we need to learn. There are so many issues that we need to talk about when it comes to how to go about cleaning it. And even things like wudu. We all know we covered how to make wudu, but what exactly is qualified for making wudu? What if there is a bucket and a glass of, or a drop of Coke falls into it? A small drop of soda. Can I make wudu with it? Or what about a drop of urine falls into it? Can I make wudu with it? What if I drop a lot of Coke in it? Single drop versus one glass. Can I still do wudu with it? So people have this question, and sometimes when you're praying, for example, Eid Salah or something, when you're outside, maybe like the birds are going on, and their excretion fell on you, right? Their urine or anything that falls on you in your clothes. What happens to it? Do you have to clean it, or is your salah going to be invalid? So these are the questions that people have, and what for people who travel in trains or maybe even just walking outside, people in this country drink a lot of beer, and you'll find the soda or the beer cans, and you accidentally step on it, and the beer gets on your clothes. What do you need to do? Can you just, if you're on your way to masjid, can you just come and pray, or do you need to need to wash it, or what exactly do you need to do? And if somebody doesn't remember, and those impurities are there, and is their salah valid or not? So those things are, and if you are in a very large body of water, near the large body of water, a sea water which is very salty, it tastes, obviously the ocean and everything, it tastes very salty. Can you make wudu with that kind of water, or does it have to be good water? And what if I'm holding my kids and making salah? What if my kid, it's an infant who urinates in my clothes? What do I need to do? Is my salah valid? Why do people say it's valid? What are the exceptions? And what are the evidences and so on? What if I'm praying and if nose bleeding happened and it fell on my clothes? Do I need to stop it right there, or do I need to make wudu? Do I need to clean all the blood that fell on my clothes? What are the rulings associated with it? And if I pray here and if there was a dried urine, is my salah accepted? I don't see the urine, but I know that urine fell probably 1 month ago there. Can I pray at that spot? And if I'm walking and some unknown liquid fell on me, I don't know if it came from drainage, I don't know if it's a good water. Do I need to clean it before I perform salah? Is it compulsory for me? And can I make wudu from a silver container? Is it valid? The answer is it's not valid. But why do we say that? And what precautions do we need to take? And what are the evidences for it? So all those kinds of things. So some people have a lot of doubts. Some people have a lot of questions. So we will cover all those issues, inshallah. I will answer all these questions to you. But before we get into all these detailed topics, we need to learn about these three Arabic words, what they mean, and why is it important. So these words, tahur, tahir, and najas. So as you see in the chart, the distinction between three types of liquids or any object is that tahur, the first one is the best kind of liquid. This is a liquid. When I say pure, it means that if it falls on your clothes, it's okay. It's not a problem at all. It's good. You don't have to like wash it. Okay, and purifying is something you can use it to make wudu and ghusl for, to clean it yourself from filth. So that becomes purifying. An example I have here is water, of course. Water falls on our clothes, no problem. And for wudu, we use water. We can use those things. And the second thing, tahir, is something, if it falls on your clothes and you pray salah with it, it's still good, no problem. Coke falls on your clothes, it's okay. But you cannot make wudu with Coke. What about Sprite? It looks like kind of water, right? It's not colored. Can you still do wudu with Sprite? It's the category of what? It's tahir. So I have X mark here for purifying. It cannot purify. So what exactly, how do we differentiate tahur and tahir? We're going to talk about that as well. And finally, najas. It's neither pure nor purifying, meaning if it falls on your clothes, you have to, it's compulsory, you have to wash it, otherwise your salah is not going to be valid. And there are so many examples of it. What about vomiting? What about the blood? What about the urine? What about the animals' excretion and the belts that we wear? What if it's made of pig skin? Is my salah going to be valid? What is exactly najas? What is the list of things that's najas? So just a simple chart here. I'm going to go into details later on as well. So what happens is a liquid can go from one state to another state. So basic example is that water, when you keep adding pure substance to it, right? Islamically defined pure substance. What's an example of something pure? Like Coke, for example, right? If you keep adding it, it becomes tahir at one point, okay? And so if I add a drop of water, a drop of Coke into the water, is it still called water? That's the question we need to ask. If I have a bucket and if I put a drop of Coke, do we still call that bucket of water water, or do we call it Coke? If I bring someone from outside and I tell him, is this water, what is he going to say? Is he going to say it's contaminated water because he didn't see anything that you are putting Coke in it? He will still say water, because what is the point then that we say that it became tahir? It's not tahur anymore. We're going to talk about it. When it's no longer called water, it is tahir. And similarly, on the opposite side, if you keep adding impure substance, at one point it becomes najas, and we're going to talk about this as well. So this is a basic thing that you have to remember, inshallah. So, but very quickly, tahur, which is like the highest level of liquid, what exactly is tahur? What are the objects that are called tahur? So obviously we mentioned one example, which is water itself. The other example is different kinds of water, basically Zamzam water, the rain, snow, hail. So if somebody makes wudu with snow or hail, it's still valid. I mean, the medical issue is another thing, but it's still considered water. And sea, ocean, anything naturally occurring water, it is tahur. It is pure and it is purifying. The groundwater and tap water. Tap water, for example, what the water that we have in our tap, right? This is not real water. It goes through water plants, and it's chlorinated water also, they call it. So they put something in it, some objects in it. So can we still make wudu with it? Because it's not real water. So we can still make wudu, because if I take that cup of water and I just give it to someone and I ask them, what is this? What are they going to say? It is water. So even though it's maybe a little bit taste is also there of chlorine, maybe it is still called water. Okay. So at the point when we say that, okay, this doesn't look water to me anymore. Now examples of tahir. I have here Coke we discussed, and soap also. Soap is cleaning, it's pure, but when it comes to, you can't make wudu with soap water. Okay, it's not purifying. It's pure, but it's not purifying. And sand. Sand, is it tahir or is it tahur? It's tahir. So what happens is, in the same bucket of water, you put, like, fill the bucket with a lot of sand, it becomes what? A muddy water, right? Can you make wudu with muddy water? You cannot, because it becomes tahir now. And the interesting thing here is that when we talked about tayammum, we said you can make tayammum with sand, right? But sand by itself is good, it can purify, and water by itself can purify you. But when you mix together, it loses both the properties. It downgrades to tahir. So that's something you should understand. And also there are some things which are off-putting, which is disliked, which we don't like, but they are still tahir. For example, if you are sick, if you have cough or cold and you have those runny nose and it falls on your clothes while you're praying, what do you need to do? Oh, is this najas? Do I need to clean it? Is my salah going to be valid? So runny nose, it is tahir, it is pure, but of course you have to clean it. It's better because it's not good to see those people who see it. It's not a good sign. So it's better to clean, but your salah is going to be valid, inshallah. Same with saliva and poison. What do you think? Poison falls on your clothes. Do you have to remove it? So if we know poison, of course, it's haram to consume it. Anything that can harm you is haram. But when it comes to cleanliness, we don't see whether it is haram or not to consume, because we're not talking about consumption. We're talking about purification. So poison, it's not najas. It's not filthy. It's not impure for your body. If it falls, it's still pure. I'm going to talk about other examples as well. And najas, this is the topic which is going to take a lot of time, because there are many things which are najas. So we're going to get into this a little bit detail, but one thing that you should remember, when does something becomes tahir, from tahur to tahir, from higher level to lower level? Whenever there is a change in characteristic. And we said there are three characteristics. One is smell, color, and taste. So these three things, if they are changing, then it is a problem. Then it is a problem. It's not called water anymore. Okay. So najas, this is a word that you should know. So najas basically means impurity. Okay, and najasa means anything impure, filth, or any impure thing that's there. So the important thing, as we said, it's something which is not pure and it cannot purify. And if you have it on your clothes, you have to repeat your salah if you prayed with it, and you have to clean it. And obviously, any najas thing you cannot consume also. If like pork is also najas, you cannot consume it. So the thing is, it's not just about falling on clothes. Najas, it's about the place where you pray also you have to consider. And what if I went to my friend's house, he has a lot of children, and he told me to sit down on the sofa, and the sofa had urine, it looked like urine. So should I sit there or not? So those kind of things, where we sit is also important. It needs to be clean. It cannot be filthy, and we should have that cleaned as well. And same thing applies to clothing and shoes and the body itself. And it's obligatory. This knowledge is obligatory, and we have to avoid as much as we can. Now, why do we say, where do we get this information that I have to avoid it and my salah is not going to be valid? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Quran, in Surah Al-Muddathir, وَثِيَابَكَ فَطَهِّرْ وَالرُّجْزَ فَهْجُرْ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that purify your garments and keep away from all impurity. And it's intended for us also. So you have to purify and keep ourselves from purity and take all steps to remove that impurity. Before we get into examples, this is another chart, how we go about knowing which one is najas and which one is not. When we add some najas to water, now this thing, right thing here, if it's a running water, if you have a river which is going, right, flowing, if najas falls into it, it still remains tahir, it is still pure, no problem. So you see, like you are in a river and you see on the end of the river there is probably a dog which you see, maybe it's urinating or licking from the river. Can you still make wudu with that water? It's very far away, but the thing is, anything that is running water, it never gets najas. It doesn't get, you can always make wudu with it. Now, this thing is important. This is what you need to remember. Stationary water that doesn't move, it stays in a bucket or stays in a pond, it's there, okay? And if something falls onto it, then we need to see, is it below 2 kullas or not? 2 kullas is basically around 50 gallons of water, you can say. And if it is very less water, just a bucket of water is going to be below 2 kullas. If a drop of urine or significant amount falls into it, it becomes najas, okay? You cannot make wudu with it anymore. But if it is very, very large amount of, a water body like a pond or a swimming pool or something like that, it's obviously going to be more than 51 gallons, then we need to ask the question, okay, did the characteristics change? Did the odor, did the smell, did the taste change? Okay, and because sometimes people can get into swimming pool and they might urinate in there if they are not careful about purification. What do I need to do when I go into swimming pool and then I come out and I quickly make wudu and I make salah? Is my salah valid because in the swimming pool somebody urinated? So the basic characteristic that if this one has changed, then yeah, this is najas. You cannot make wudu with it and you have to clean it from your body. If it's not changing, then it is tahir. Okay, so that big quantity of water, it is still okay. Even though it's a little less than 51 gallons, or it's more than 51 gallons, then you check on this one. So in example of najas, it's very clear. You look in the characteristics. But when it comes to tahir, you just ask one question. Is this considered water or not? Okay, no matter the characteristics change or not. If people say, okay, this is still called water, even though pure substances went into it, we still call it water, so we can make wudu. Okay. The taste might change a little bit, okay, but still, just like the example of chlorinated water I gave, the taste changed. Some people might say, I can taste chlorine in there, so my wudu is not valid. No, that's not correct, because chlorine, is it a pure substance or an impure substance?
Pure.
Chlorine is pure, so even if the taste is changing, it is still okay. But if somebody mixed najas in it and you can smell or taste the najas, then you cannot make water. Okay, so this is important. So we see characteristics only when we talk about najas. Otherwise it's all good, as long as it is still called water. Urine also, we say anything that is in liquid state, this is what we call najas. Okay, so if a urine has dried, for example, in order for that impurity to come on your body, there has to be something wet. Either your sweat or there is something wet should be there for that impurity to come on you. Otherwise, it remains pure. Okay? So when you make sajda and if you have sweat on it, that urine can get on your body. But if you sit on it, your clothes are not going to have dirt on it. So the impurity doesn't get transferred. You don't have to change clothes. And one hadith or one fiqh issue that scholars mention is that if a liquid falls on you and if you do not know whether this liquid is pure or impure, what should we do? Then if we don't know, the thing is we should not inquire about it. Okay, that's what Rasulullah ﷺ told a sahabi, that do not even tell him. He asked a person, he thought that is it najas or not, so he began asking people. So Rasulullah ﷺ told other people that don't answer him. Don't answer him. Because if you don't know, you don't know. You don't have to go about asking. Okay? So this is something. So if somebody fell, we just see it. Does it smell very bad? If it looks okay to you, then that's it. You just assume it is okay. Okay? Unless you have very clear evidence that it is najas, you don't have to clean it. That's what we learn from the hadith. Okay, so let's get into different examples of what exactly is najas, all the list that we need to be aware of. First example is any excretion of humans, anything that comes out of our private parts, that is najas, no matter what it is, okay? Any liquid that comes out. So that includes urine or the stools or the... Now, for urine, we need to talk about an exception here. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said that male infant's urine is okay. It's not a najasa. You don't have to compulsorily clean it, but even though it's off-putting, you don't have to clean it. This is a hadith in Tirmidhi, which is a Hasan hadith, in which he said, sprinkle the urine of a boy and wash the urine of a girl. So he differentiated the boy and a girl, an infant. If you're holding a small baby and if urinates, you just have to sprinkle or just clean it with your hand and it's going to be okay. But if it's a girl, you have to remove it, wash it, soak it with water, and you have to do that. And why do we have this differentiation? Rasulullah ﷺ did not give an explanation. Maybe, medically we do not have an explanation either, but maybe one day, inshallah, we will find the chemistry of this, and maybe people will start accepting Islam because of that. But this is hadith. Rasulullah ﷺ told us to do so, we do it, okay? So whether we understand or not. But the question that people have is, what do you exactly mean by an infant and child? Where is the mark? So what scholars said is that if the baby's main food is mother's milk, then it's called an infant, okay? So it may be 2 years of age or lesser, but if the child may be like 1.5 years, if he started to eat solid foods and that becomes like the main diet of the child, then it is no longer considered an infant in this category. You have to, even if the boy, if it's eating solid food, you have to wash it, take it out and wash it. That concession is only for less than 2 years or one whose main diet is mother's milk. Now the gastric discharge, is it najas or not? So if wind comes out from a person, what's the ruling? Is it najas or not? It is not najas. If it were najas, and if a wind comes out, you have to basically remove your clothes and wash it. So we don't do that. Okay, so it is not najas unless something else comes out with the wind, which is najas. Okay, otherwise it is not najas. Other thing that we need to talk is anything that comes off private parts, which is not excretion. Okay, which we don't usually come out. We talk about blood. If a blood comes out, if somebody has medical problem and it comes out and it falls on your clothes, you have to clean it. Otherwise, your salah is not going to be valid. Same thing with menstrual blood, and same thing with other fluids that adults discharge. That is najas. However, there is an exception of the money about the sperm. The scholars said that it is not najas. It is not najas. Our creation is from sperm and cannot be impure. However, the thing that comes before the sperm, which is the preseminal fluid or the prostatic fluid, that is najas. So the difference, we are going to cover about these different kind of fluids. This is the one that comes with a lot of quantity, and this one comes with small quantity during the initial stage. So that's the difference. Money is not impure. It is not filth. So even though you're supposed to remove it because it's off-putting, but somebody happens to pray with it, the salah is going to be valid. And there are many ahadith we're going to cover about it. Why do we say? Where do we bring the ahadith? What's the evidence? And there are a lot of ahadith about it. But just to give you a summary, this is not najas. But other discharges, what about this saliva or a sweat or breast milk or human hair? Is any of these najas? None of this is najas, meaning anything that falls on your clothes or anything, you don't have to clean it. Okay, you don't have to clean it. So this is all okay. Now blood. So previous slide we talked about the blood that comes out of private parts, but what about the blood which comes out of my hand? What if I have a paper cut? I was handling papers and blood started coming out because of a cut, and it fell on my clothes. Now, do I need to take that cloth off? So the scholars differentiated between large amount of blood and small amount of blood. And basically any blood that pours forth in large quantity, then it is considered najas. But if it's a small quantity, blood from the nose or from the gums or from the paper cut, it is not najas, it is okay. It's good to clean it because it's off-putting, but your salah is going to be valid. What about vomit? If anybody vomits, and if a child vomits, for example, on you, and it's salah time and you're rushing, you just clean it very casually and you come to salah, is your salah going to be valid? Or if you yourself did vomit and some of it fell on your clothes or something, what do you need to do? So vomiting, scholars had little different opinions on that one. Some scholars said that, yeah, it is okay, no problem, vomit is not najas. But some scholars were strict and they said, no, it is najas. But the Imam Malik, for example, he used to say that we look at the vomit itself. If the vomit is, it's like digested food and it smells very bad, right? So that is najas. But if it's like you just ate it and you just threw up immediately, right? That's a vomit too. But so that is not najas. So different opinions basically. There is a hadith about it that people usually quote, that vomit and this needs to be washed, but it's a da'if hadith, so we cannot base a fiqh ruling on a da'if hadith. So used water. So I have this bucket of water here, and somebody comes and starts to wash his hands or make wudu with it, and he dips it in the water and he takes out and he washes his hands, and maybe the water falls into the same bucket while he's making wudu or washing. Now this is called a used water. If somebody used the water, then it is used water. And there can be many ways this water can become used. And same thing if somebody had like a big glass and they drank it with their mouth, right? And they left it, and then you say, okay, well, why don't I make wudu with this water? Because that water touched his lips. Now it's a used water. Can I make wudu with this kind of water? So the answer to this question, is it najas or not? So we first have to ask the question, yarhamakullah. So what exactly was the person cleaning or doing? Okay, if he had impure or unclean object on him, like if urine fell on it, if urine fell on his hand, and then he dipped his hand in the bucket and then cleaned it, and that water fell into it, then that's a problem. Okay, because he made it a used water by cleaning najas, by cleaning impurity. So that used water also becomes najas. But if it was used for just doing regular cleaning or just to make wudu or just touched his lips, so that water still remains good, tahir. So you can also make wudu with it. And if obviously if the color is changing so much that it's no longer called water, then you cannot make wudu, as we just said before. And junub person, we talked about junub person, a person who is in major impurity, right? Someone who has to compulsorily make ghusl, okay? But he didn't make ghusl. So what happens? Can I, if that junub person touches me, does it break my wudu, or do I have to clean my body with water because a junub person touched me? So the answer is junub person, a person doesn't become impure by himself, okay? He might have impurity on his body, but he does not become impure as a person. So this happened one time in Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you know, his Sahabi Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, one time Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu saw that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was coming, and he just quickly went away. And he later Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam found him, and he asked him, where did you go? So he said that, Ya Rasulullah, I was in a state of junub, I was in a state of major impurity, and I did not want to sit with you until I did ghusl. So Rasulullah ﷺ said, Subhanallah, the believer does not become najis. He does not become najis. So this is a hadith from Sahih Bukhari. So this doesn't matter. Containers, gold and silver, you cannot use it for purification. You cannot use for food consumption as well. We covered it when we were talking about fiqh of food last year, I think. We cannot eat from gold and silver, and same thing applies for wudu. You cannot do it. And what about non-Muslims? So you're traveling and you don't know where you are, and it's time for salah. You go into someone's house, knock it, and you say, "Can I get some water? I need to make wudu." And that person happens to be a non-Muslim, and he gives you a jug or a bottle of water, which they use in their home. Can you make wudu with it? So the answer is yes, you can make wudu with it. It's not a problem, even though they might be using it for other things, but in general it is okay to use it unless you know that it smells something bad or something. Because this happened to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, wherein he was traveling, and there was a mushrik woman who was passing by, and he drank from the water. She had a leather vessel with her, so he drank from that and also made wudu with that water from that non-Muslim woman. And this hadith is in Sahih Bukhari. But if we see all the different hadith, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam basically saying that, if it is possible to avoid non-Muslims containers, it is better. And if you get it, then try to at least wash it. Okay, wash it. If you can't even do that, then it's okay, you can use it. That's in a hadith in Abu Dawud, that if you can find other vessels, eat and drink from them. But if you cannot find anything else, then wash them with water and eat and drink. The problem is basically these people do not have any problem drinking alcohol and pork, which is najis. So we have to be careful about that. Okay. What about silk? Is silk prohibited for men to wear? It is prohibited. What is it considered najis? If just before salah, if the silk cloth fell on my clothes or on my body, do I have to do something? No, I don't have to do it. Just the example of poison that we gave. Something is prohibited doesn't mean it is najis. Okay, so silk is not something that causes us to make wudu or clean it.